In this video, we'll cover Chapter 8, Ethical, Social, and Political Issues in E-Commerce. Take a look at the outline posted on D2L. We're just going to hit the most important areas of this chapter. Alright, let's get started. The first thing we want to point out is how the internet changes the way we interact with other people, how we use the internet in ways that maybe change the way we ethically think about situations. So we'll talk about that. I have got a couple animated GIFs to kind of illustrate how the internet changes us. So we're going to first look at ethical issues and how we approach situations, and then we'll talk more about the technology. So here's an animated GIF, and the dogs represent users on the internet, and that green fence that you see slowly being opened is the internet. And you can see how the dogs are really aggressive in the beginning because there's no real chance that they're going to get hurt because of the veil that the gate provides. And as soon as they realize, well, there's consequences, then you can see they calm down. Here's another one. And again here, even more so, the dogs choose to use the gate as a way to shield themselves, but they still want to be way more aggressive than they would be if there was no gate. Let's take a look at analyzing ethical dilemmas. I'm going to give you an example that happened in my life to my brother-in-law. He's an accountant and had the second highest accounting position with Wix Furniture when they were still around. They were bought out by Rooms to Go, and he lost his job. He went 9-10 months without a job, and he had 5 kids, mortgage, all of that, those responsibilities, and he finally got an offer and started working. Well, in the first week he was there, he found an irregularity in the way they were reporting income, and he went to his boss and pointed it out. His boss said, "Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it." He said fine, and a couple weeks later nothing was done. He went to his boss's boss and said, "Hey, I found this irregularity," and that person said to him, "Pack up your things because you don't have a job here." So let's take a look at the way we would analyze this ethical situation. How do we handle this when we find something we think is wrong, and the consequences of the actions we take? So first we want to identify and clearly describe the facts, right? So in this case it would be what he found. Is it clear that it's something illegal or at the very least unethical, and who he told and all of the people involved. Next, to define the conflict in terms of the higher order values. These would be things like honesty, privacy, free speech, things like that. Well, obviously this is an accounting issue, so it would have been something like a GAAP or FASB issue, generally accepted accounting principles, and a violation of those issues. Then identify the stakeholders. Here it certainly would be him. It would be his family. They're certainly affected by his ability to have an income. It would be the individuals, the manager and his manager's manager, and it would also be the profession of accounting. Next, identify the options. Does he look the other way? Does he do what he did? Does he report it to some governmental agency? All of those possible options. And then what could happen depending on what he chooses. Alright, let's take a look at some frameworks to analyze ethical dilemmas. And here we'll just list these. This certainly isn't an ethics class, but just some different frameworks to consider situations. The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Universalism, it's analyze the situation and the decision made as a way to always do the same thing and be consistent. The proponent of this school is Immanuel Kant, and he has the truth-telling story where it's always right to tell the truth, but would you do that if someone asked you, if you like their haircut, and maybe you don't. Maybe you tell a little white lie. And what if we raise the stakes and we consider someone comes in and says, hey, where's this person? And you know where that person is, and this person looks angry and has a gun. Do you tell the truth? Slippery slope. This is a framework where you argue if this decision is made, perhaps another one will be made, and a chain of negative consequences can occur as we start down this pathway. The collective utilitarian principle. This is the greater good for society. John Stuart Mill is one of the proponents of this framework. Risk aversion has to do with choosing the actions that produce the least harm. No free lunch refers to the premise that everything is created by someone, either created or owned by someone, and so we can't assume that we can take things and appropriate things without compensating those people who created them. The New York Times test is a way to evaluate our decisions based on perfect knowledge, and that just means, what would you do if exactly what you did, the actions that you've taken, would be in the front page of the New York Times? Maybe that should be called the Reddit test nowadays. Social contract rule refers to, if you're part of a society, then you have to agree with the rules of that society, and so you can't enjoy the rules of the society until it actually affects you, and then choose a different pathway. Socrates famously convinced one of his students, I think his name was Crito, to stay in prison, accept the death penalty, based on the rules are the rules, and you can't be a member of the society if you don't think the rules apply to you. John Locke and Thomas Hobbes are also philosophers who fall under this framework. Privacy is the right to be left alone, so people shouldn't be able to spy on us, and this is both obviously physical and digital. Information privacy is the way our information that has been collected is treated. We want to be able to do things on the internet and not have them become a part of our permanent record. It might be poor choices we made on Facebook when we were teenagers, and have that follow us along through life. So some of the threats to our privacy include the information collected by websites, Amazon, and places we shop, and also by the government. Currently, with the use of smartphones and 4G technology, there's a lot more information about where we are, what we do when we're there. All of that information is available to be collected. The data comes in two basic types: the kinds of information that can identify us, like our name, address, credit card number, account number, passwords, and then just anonymous information, what we did, what we clicked on when we were at the website, what kind of browser we're using. They can even track what website we came from. Another area that we have a lot of information exposed is on social networks, Facebook in particular. Oftentimes, to get the full value of the social networks, we find ourselves encouraged to share personal information about our life, about our careers, about our family, and putting that out on the social networks sometimes can have some negative consequences. One example is the face recognition technology on Facebook, or tagging, and when we consider how that biometric is now part of Facebook, what does it mean for things we do outside of Facebook, and what if that technology is used to identify us when we really expect to have some privacy? And finally, the conflict between the personal information that we want to keep private and the social network or the e-commerce merchant that wants to monetize whatever information they can get. So here are some technical solutions to help protect